Okay, here. Thank you each and every single one of you for coming out tonight. Tonight, for those of you who aren't aware, Charlie, you can cut the music. Thanks, Charlie. For those of you who aren't aware, this is the TBD Comedy Stand-Up Special. For those of you who are aware, congratulations, you've made it to the right spot. All right, so with that out of the way, I want to make sure I thank every one of you for coming out tonight. We have a bunch of performers here for you this evening. Each and every single one of them is bursting with talent and exceptionally attractive. Ladies, you've been warned. All right, and now with that out of the way, I'm sure you're all wondering, who is this handsome man before you today? Well, I'm so glad you decided to be flirty. My name is Ryan Mooney. I am a senior here at NDSU. This will be my third year with TBD Stand-Up Comedy. I joined TBD back in the year of 2020, for those of you who remember that fever dream of a year. I joined, the way I got joined was, so fun fact about me, I used to be an art student for many years, dropped out because art's hard, took a year and a half out to be able to find myself, and eventually decided, you know what? Screw science, screw art, I'm gonna go do science. And that has been the consequence of my action ever since. So I got joined up in 2020. I came back to school here, and I was like, you know, I need to try to make myself some new friends. I need to try to get out more, all the fun stuff. And so I decided, you know, I created a list, right, of every single organization at NDSU that piqued my interest. So the Anime Club, the Young Democrats, because that's how my mom raised me. TBD was on the list, the Anime Club, the whole 9 yards, right? And my battle plan was pretty simple, right? What I was gonna do is I was gonna go to each one during the first couple of weeks of school that year. I was gonna create a pro and cons list for each one. Pro, you know, people are really nice. Con, lots of neck beards, you know, stuff like that. But that ended up not happening. What ended up happening was me and my roommate one day got hungry and decided to go get food at Red Pepper, which if you've ever done, I'm sorry. So we go to Red Pepper on 19th, and me and Bob, we walk in the front door, and it's quiet, dead quiet. We walk in, and there's no one in any of the seats, there's no one behind the till or anything. Literally all that's going on is just Eric Clapton's Slow Ride, or Eric Clapton's Lay On Me is playing in the background, as we're all just like, hello? Is anyone here? Can we get some food, please? Hello? And just as we say that, who pops their head around the door than the most golden-haired, golden retriever, fluffy man I have ever met. Some of you may know him as Parker Johnson. Those of you who don't, just picture a golden retriever but in human form. He pokes his head around the corner. Huh? People! And he walks out, right? And we're like, hey, hey, what's going on? We start making casual conversation with him. You know, how's your day going? And he's like, oh, well, you know, it's been a bit of a weird day. I'm not gonna lie to you. Oh, really? What happened? Well, you know, I showed up for work at 10 today, right? And my manager, I guess he just didn't show this morning. So the lights were off, the door was locked. I had to call my regional manager. It was a whole thing. Oh, wow, really? That sounds terrible. It sounds like you have a really bad manager. Oh, no, not at all. He's the president of my improv club. I love him. You don't say. Suffice to say, TBD then proceeded to move up the ranking board. So we and him get to talking. He tells me about, you know, when we have practices and everything, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna check these guys out first. We'll see what it's all about. I show up to practice, and it's at the Babbling Brook outside of campus, if any of you have walked by it ever. And it's the first Tuesday of the year, right, of the school year. So I show up, and there's a bunch of people already performing improv in the front of the row. So I just kind of sit down, try to make all 6'2" of myself as small as possible so nobody sees me, you know? When all of a sudden I see one person kind of look over. Hey, next person looks over. Next thing you know, I have a swarm of 20 nerds all staring at me like prairie dogs. Who's the new guy? When did you get here? It's at that point that one of the most handsome men I think I've ever met in my life, James Hofler, walks up to me and is like, hey, we're TBD Comedy, da-da-da-da-da. Would you like to play improv with us? That's what he said, exactly. You can't tell me I'm wrong. And I'm like, yeah, sure, that sounds cool. And so I performed with them. Long story short, about a year later, I end up joining the club, becoming a performance member. I end up becoming a member of the board. All this fun stuff, right? That's the end of the story, correct? Wrong. There's a side of the story that I didn't know. So that whole story, right, is from my point of view. From all my friends' point of view, it went a little differently. So we flash forward when I'm a board member, and we're doing our pre-yearly board meeting, trying to figure out what we're going to do, what our goals are for the semester. And we're talking about how recruitment is important. And we're trying to figure out, how are we going to recruit people? What are our strategies? What are we going to do? Are we going to do like marketing? Are we going to get like people? Are we going to do like a marketing scheme? Are we going to like get people on the advertisements? Like, what are we going to do, guys? And there's this furious debate going on. And it's Matt Smith, who you'll see later tonight, finally speaks up and goes, guys, calm down, please. We don't need to worry about recruitment. After all, last year was 2020, the year of lockdown. And we still got Ryan. Meanwhile, I'm doodling on my laptop like, what are we talking about? Yes, we got Ryan in 2022, that magical fae of a creature. I'm sorry, what did you just say? He showed up out of a thick fog on an August day. It was like cloudy at best. We asked him if he wanted to do improv, and he was a natural at it. I've seen Whose Line Is It Anyway? He then descended down on a chariot made of squirrels and performed a monologue. Okay, now I'm pretty sure you're just trying to boost my ego there, Matt. You can chill out a little bit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how eventually I came to be a member of TBD. And TBD has always been something that's very special and very close to my heart. That's why when Matt asked me if I would like to host the stand-up special this year, I had a tear in my eye and of course said yes. However, for as great as TBD has been for me, and it truly has been something, it has been nothing compared to the class load I've had to take so far these last 2.5 years. For those of you who don't know, I'm a bio major, like I said at the beginning of the set. Thank you for paying attention. And if you're wondering what a bio major is, it's pretty simple. I'm going to lay it out for you real quick. It's a chemistry major with a lot of extra steps. My class load for the past couple years has consisted of 2 chemistry classes every single semester, a vague biology class, and then usually something else that the board was like, yeah, that kind of has something to do with biology. Make them learn that. But as bad as that's been, and I've learned to deal with it. I've learned to take it in stride. I think without a doubt the hardest class I think I've ever had to take was Physics 101. That's right, the first one. The introduction was one of the hardest classes I've ever taken. Let that sink in for a second, all right? Now let me tell you why physics was so hard. Physics, in theory, should be a pretty easy class. Now, I know it's a little ridiculous that I, as a bio major, need to learn physics. I mean, what's the deal, really? Let's face it. It's important that I, as a biologist, know how many newtons it takes to be able to yeet a deer across a football field. That's what a biology major is all about, right? So my advisor told me, he's like, hey, you're gonna have to take a physics class. I know it sucks, but you'll get through it. And I'm like, okay, cool. Show up the first day. I'm sitting in the front row because I'm a good little boy. Got my laptop out. I don't know why you laughed at the fact that I'm a good boy, but we're gonna move on. I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, a shadow falls over me. And I look over to my side, and there I see the most unbelievable cryptid I think I've ever seen in my life. My physics professor. This man was 6'3", had long, gorgeous, flowing white hair, a Karl Marx beard, a delightful button-up shirt, and cargo shorts that went down to the middle of his thigh. For those wondering, he did wear those until December. He never wore jeans. The whole year, just those sinewy, sexy calves were distracting me through every lecture. Do you have any idea how distracting that was for me? Like, God, buy me a drink first, please. But he walks past me and he walks up to the front board and he whips out a marker and he writes his name down and goes, ladies and gentlemen, I will be your physics professor. That's right, my professor is German. Like German. Not like, oh yeah, we make Neplis soup for lunch sometimes. Not that kind of German. Not like, oh yeah, we like to throw a little bit of pepper in with our cooking every now and again. No. I mean German, okay? And I know what you're wondering. Ryan, how did you end up having a German man teach you physics? You're asking the wrong question, however. The right question is, how did this man come to teach me physics in Fargo, North Dakota? Because, let me give you a whirlwind tour of this man's life. So this man starts off going to school in Munich, Germany, where he gets his bachelor's degree. You know, the thing I'm going to school for right now, that thing. He gets that degree, and he thinks to himself, you know, this isn't enough for me. I'm not satisfied. And so he goes and he gets his master's degree at Oxford University. For those of you playing the home game, that is the oldest university in the Western Hemisphere. Kind of a big deal. But he graduates from there, right? He graduates. And you think that's it, right? That's done. He's over. Surely no one could want up top going to Oxford. Wrong. This man looked at Oxford and went, old is lame. And then he proceeded to immediately go to MIT in Boston, where he got his doctorate degree. And I know what you're thinking. Okay, he got his doctorate degree in Boston, eventually got a job offer, he decided to teach physics at NDSU. Wrong! No, that wasn't enough for this man. No. Because he then went on to get his postdoctorate degree at the University of Edinburgh. And then he taught physics in Fargo, North Dakota. Somebody make that make sense for me, please. So this man is teaching me physics, right? And when you have a professor with that level of education, they have like a higher expectation of you as a student, which is a problem because I haven't taken physics class since 7th grade, and even then I still failed it. This guy took us on a whirlwind tour of such topics as Newton's, thermodynamics, acceleration, speed. What's the difference? You know, pretty tame, calm stuff. Fun fact, by the end of the semester, he was teaching us such things as Einstein's theory of relativity, gravitational wells, quantum physics, and my personal favorite, how to build a nuclear bomb. Because I, as a biology student, need to know how to build a nuclear bomb in my garage in case the Ruskies decide to get aggressive again. I guess. But I think, without a doubt, that lecture was actually one of my personal favorites, weirdly enough, and I'll tell you why. So, he's teaching us about nuclear bombs and life in East Germany and the Ruskies and all that fun stuff, right? And he's drawn like an atom structure up here and how like the nucleus breaks off, and he draws it off and he kind of pauses and clicks his cap back together, puts it in his pocket, and he turns to the rest of us. Mind you, at the beginning of this class, there were 50 people in this class. By this point in the semester, there were 5 of us. And he turns to the 5 of us and goes, "Und I wonder, have any of you ever built a bomb before?" And just kind of stared at us as we're all sitting there making very similar faces to what you all were just now, like, is he serious? Is this a joke? What's going on? Is this a sting? What's happening? And he looks at us and he's waiting. No, none of you have built a bomb before, really. None of you have taken apart firecrackers and put them together and blown them. Really? Oh, you guys are all lame. And he goes right back. Meanwhile, I guarantee you there were like 30 ATF agents waiting out behind the back doors like, "Aw, son of a..." All right, pack it up, guys. He buried the lead this year. Let's go on home. Come on, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been my set. Thank you very much. Now, I want you all to know, this next member we have is without a doubt the most handsome member of TVD we've had this year. Some say he's a man without a plan. Some say he's a man who fled the country in order to evade taxes. All we know for sure is that his name is Charlie Bowman!
How are we doing, Fight? How are we doing tonight, folks? those of you who don't know me, I spent this past spring semester at Oklahoma State University. For those of you who don't know me like on a personal level, it's because I got deep southern roots down there. And before you get nervous, my family emigrated from Germany after slavery and before the Third Reich took over. So they weren't singing Dixie or Goose Steppin', but they sure as shit were still probably racist. But yeah, no, I was on the national exchange program with all the other actual foreign exchange students. And I think I now have my new least favorite people, British men. that was the majority of the people, the foreign exchange students. And from Thursday to Sunday, they were just in a constant drunken stupor. You'd be asleep at 2 in the morning, they'd come in, start kicking in doors, knocking on walls. The worst. But it's like noon for them, so I guess I'll give it to them. The worst one, though, was it was 3 in the morning, and they kicked a soccer ball into the fire alarm and set it off, which is the most European thing you could do. It's quite a rude wake-up call when the fire alarm starts screaming, "Go!" There was one other student in the national exchange program, and he was a character. He was pretty socially awkward, and that's coming from me, so you know it's bad. And there was one day where it was me, him, a British guy, because of course, and this Scottish chick he had been talking to and trying to, crush on and stuff. We were sitting out in our common area, just, having a good time, telling stories, and he had this genius idea to tell us the story of how he had sexual relations with a fruit. Not like in the Freddie Mercury kind of way, but like with produce. Specifically an apple, which that doesn't make sense to me, because there's probably easier fruits to have sex with. Like a melon. A melon makes sense. There's surface area, there's depth. Because like an apple's like hard on the outside and the inside, and maybe like an inch of soft stuff in between, which raises more questions I don't want answered. Maybe like pineapples. Pineapples would be uncomfortable. Grapes would be difficult. Grapefruit, that'd be another one. Oh, I know, that's a thing. But yeah, no. Anyway, I hear the story. Later on, I'm at a country bar. I've been drinking. I've been dancing with a girl. And I tell her the story, because it's a funny story. And, night ends. I think nothing of it. Later on that next week, I'm in the Union. I'm enjoying my lunch, minding my own business. He comes over, sits down in front of me. It's like, "Hey man, I heard you told someone that story. I can't have you telling people that story. Like, I'm going to be a news reporter. I can't be getting canceled." So I assured him I'm not going to tell a living soul. And I got to remind you that he did this to try and impress a woman. But then again, I don't know what you do to impress a woman. I walked into Oklahoma single and walked out single, so do the math there. But no, there was a girl I was crushing on in Oklahoma. We had 2 classes together, which is good for me. We had an art class and an entomology class, which is the study of bugs. Exhilarating stuff. And I was trying to work my, dorky white guy magic. So I helped her cheat on her tests. I know my entomology and my way around Adagengus. That's for the entomology people in the room. I got it. There's one problem though. She had a boyfriend. For most of the semester though. So that put some that put a twig in the gears, if you will. I didn't know at first, because when you're kind of a socially awkward white guy, you don't know how to phrase that question. Like you got to be play coy and be like, "Hey, do you have a boyfriend?" Maybe. But she showed up to class one day with a massive hickey on her neck, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that'll do her." They broke up though towards the end of the semester, which was good for me. So I was like, I'm going to be gone in a month. I'll shoot my shot and see what happens. Shot my shot, got shot down, packed up, left town. And I told my sister the story, you know, once I got home to Minnesota. And she was like, well, did you ask her out at least? I was like, well, no. And then it hit me that I've been doing it wrong this whole time. I just tell girls I like them, like a child would, and then just make it awkward. So yeah. The last story I'll tell you about here is a guy named Dave. Dave is one of those campus convert, like Bible thumper type of guys. The guy with the sign of all the things you can't do to get into heaven, that kind of thing. So he's like, he'll just be in the union spouting his shit. And see, I was raised Methodist, so like I believe in like the healthy living and the living for the community. Doesn't matter what you are or what you do, as long as you're a good person, that kind of thing. So that shit's, yeah, I don't like that. So he's just there like, God hates alcoholics. It's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's self-destructive. You hurt those around you. God hates drug abusers. Yeah, that makes sense. Same kind of thing. God hates homosexuals. Ooh. I don't like that one. God hates masturbators. Okay, no, time out. You had me in the first half, but I'm out, man. But one day I was watching him spout his shit, and then out of the crowd came a guy in one of those leather fetish dog masks. He got down on all fours, started like working his stuff like it's a dog show. And I have never seen like all like hope for humanity leave a person's face quicker than that. Because like imagine you're this guy. You grew up in the middle of nowhere, Oklahoma. You grew up in this house on this side of the street. You went to church here, and you also went to school in the church. And that was your life for the first 30 years of your life. You get your, I don't know, reverend degree. I don't know what it's called. And you decide to go yell at gay people on campuses for a living. I don't know. The only thing he could say when he saw the dog man was, have you gotten your shots at least? Which I guess credit to him. No credit to him, he was an asshole. But no, all in all, it was a very fun experience, you know. I'm 3 generations removed from what you'd call that traditional Southern thinking. And here I am having this multicultural international experience. And like my forefathers before me, you know, hating British people. That's my time, thank you.